being here today. I thought what we would do today is talk a little bit about 2019 and some of the things we got done this past year, and also give you a little glance of what's ahead for 2020. So when you look back on 2019, I think the one word that sticks out to me is the word resilience. And that resilience stems from a few different things, one of which was our weather and our weather events we had this year. And so as our office started to look back over those weather events, we wanted to share a little bit of recap on what happened in terms of our flooding and our tornadoes and the relief that went on with that. Before sharing that, it's really encouraging. I'm really proud just to see how the community responded this year. We've talked a lot about that, but I don't think that can be overstated. And specifically, when you talked about the tornadoes that we had in September, we had nearly 2,800 calls to the 211 Helpline Center for people wanting to help. We had 2,600 tons of debris dropped off to city sites. Now that's a lot of debris, but more impressive than that to me is there was 15,000 vehicles that did that work. A lot of volunteers, a lot of people stepping up and helping their neighbors. And with the flooding in the spring, back in March flooding, we had about $2.7 million in damages and costs as it related to that flooding, with protective measures, with permanent work that had to be done with debris removal. So we really used 2019, not only the tornado, but more specifically the flooding, to prepare for 2020. And we're already looking at what 2020 spring flooding could look like. And the optimist in me wants to say it won't happen. The realist in me says our river levels and the water tables are at historic levels right now as we sit here today. So we're already planning for what those needs may look like this spring. Our economy also was really strong this past year. When we look at our economy, we oftentimes look at building permit valuations as a measure of success. We did have another record year already with the number of permits issued, a little north of 7,000. First time we've ever gone north of 7,000 in terms of total permits issued. Our total value of our permits is going to be right around that $730 million mark. Last year we were at $735 million. So depending on how any creative math or creative accounting we may do between now and the end of the year, as well as anyone who may be scrambling to get things in today, we're going to be very close to another record year in our building permit valuations. Population count, as you know, we're moving into a census here. So we're expecting to grow by another 3,000 to 5,000 people this next year, but we're excited to have a real accurate census count this year that we'll be working on for 2020. Sales tax revenue is also another good indicator of our economic growth. So you have the building permit valuations, which is great, but were people spending money? I think the concern this past year was our ag economy, what that would do to the Sioux Falls economy, which is very heavily dependent on that. This was also the first year where we could collect internet sales tax collection, see that remitted back to the localities. And we saw that this year. It's not broken out from the state level, so we can't say the exact impact that it had, but it's had an impact. And our rolling 12-month sales tax growth or 2019 growth, I should say, through November is about 6%. Last year we were at about 4.5%, and in 2017 it was about 1.2%. So we've seen real steady growth in our economy, and that's despite, like I said, a flat and in some sectors declining ag economy. So that's very encouraging. But we're also being very realistic as we look to 2020 with federal elections, talk of a recession. We went through the last decade without a single month of a recession, right? This last decade was an incredible economic decade for the U.S. in general and for Sioux Falls. So we're being realistic in the fact that that can't continue forever, and we're budgeting accordingly and spending wisely to prepare for that. We also kind of doubled down on culture and arts this past year in the city. The city, along with the support of the council, made some investments, one of which was in our State Theater, which is scheduled to open this coming year with the support of Denny Sanford. That's been a project that we've talked about for many years. Great to see that get across the finish line. We had the signature sculpture in our community with the Arc of Dreams. We cut the ribbon on that, and that's been an incredible tourist attraction for the city so far this year. The opening of the Levitt Shell, which had 35 concerts this year. We're going to have 50 next year, has been an incredible arts attraction for us. And this coming year in 2020, our administration is working on establishing an arts task force to look at a better way to unify our arts community. So we have a great arts community in our Sioux Falls region, but we can probably do a little bit better job of working together. One way we've done that already is by simplifying our Orpheum and Pavilion boards and having those come together under one board, and also having the Pavilion management now manage the Orpheum, which we've already seen some economies of scale and efficiency in our arts community there. Downtown. You can't have an update for the year without talking about downtown and what's happened with our downtown development. It's been a great couple months, last couple months specifically, with the announcement of Sioux Steel's project, and we're starting to get a first peek of what that development is going to look like, which is going to be an incredible project for that property. It's also one of the reasons why the city is going to see a bond initiative coming forward in 2020 that we'll be bringing to the council, which will have several elements in it, one of which is funding to complete Phase 3 of the River Greenway, which is very interwoven with that Sioux Steel property and that Sioux Steel project. We also saw a land tract sale. I just signed paperwork this morning for Jeff Scherschlicht and Haber, their development, to sell our first parcel in the rail yard property to what we're calling rail yard flats. We also will continue to focus in 2020 to reach a successful resolution and a strong path forward with our downtown parking ramp. We remain really committed to finding a solution to that ramp situation, securing a long-term partner, and maximize the potential of that site to add economic development. That's really what we want to see. We want to maximize the potential of that site to make it really a beacon for our city, for downtown, and I think it has the potential to be that. Thanks to the great work of our Sioux Falls PD, our Sheriff's Office, and other officials, we're tough on narcotics this year. That's something I campaigned on, something I've had a lot of conversations with our police chief on, and we've done that this year. They've been hard on narcotics in our community. And when we release our crime numbers in early 2020, you're going to see record numbers of seizures on some of the key narcotics, the challenging narcotics in our city. And when you look at crime numbers and other things, a lot of times there's a narcotics element that's fueling that crime activity, which is why we're really bullish on that. So I'm proud of the work of the PD, of the Narcotics Crimes Unit, which was established in the latter part of 2018. They've been a big success in the first year and a half as well. But it's not just the enforcement piece of narcotics. We've made a lot of movement in the last year on our triage center that we're going to be building. In fact, I think early next month, or middle of next month in January, we have our first official triage center board meeting, which is composed of myself, someone from Sanford, Avera, and the county. And that building where the triage center will be located is currently in a slow vacation mode, where we're building out the third floor of our Sioux Falls City Center downtown in order to create space for the Sioux Falls Triage Center. And so we're excited to get that open. As many of you know, that will be a place where detox will happen, where we'll be able to triage people on the right track for behavioral health challenges, addiction, chemical dependency challenges, mental health challenges in our community. And so it's a very needed investment that I'm glad the council has very much supported thus far, and the community has as well. And lastly, a very specific piece, but I think is representative to kind of some of the advancements we've made in our city this year, is Sioux Falls being put on a national map with our launch of an active 5G network in November. November 1, we flipped the switch on that and saw 1.4 gigabit download speeds on a 5G network in downtown Sioux Falls, which is unprecedented for a city of our size to be put on that map. And so that is important to our city, not just so you can watch your Netflix movies faster, because they already work. It's going to be important because of the innovation that's going to bring to our city, the economic development. We already have businesses that we're trying to recruit, that's a huge selling point to them. And we're making short lists because of that. So that was a very strong win for Sioux Falls, and we look forward to more innovation like that to come. So in 2020, I feel like 2019 was a great year. It was my first full year in office. 2018 was 6-7 months on the job, so I paid my tuition that year. This was a year where I felt comfortable. I had a year of my team getting to know me getting to know my team, and we're set up for success. We've also done a lot of things internally that the public will never probably see, but have really created efficiencies in how we're running city government. In terms of the way we're having meetings, in the terms of the way we're setting priorities, what we call rocks in the city. So we're setting tangible quarter-based goals to get things done, using employee engagement software to make sure our employees are engaged, have the tools, the resources, the recognition they need to do their jobs. So I think we really have all the kind of the chess pieces in the right spot for a really strong 2020. We got some big capital projects. People always want to know, what does 2020 capital projects looks like? Well, the I-229 26th Street Southeastern project, if you live on the east side, I know you're frustrated, but the end is coming, and the juice will definitely be worth the squeeze on that project. It's been a huge project between the feds, the state, the county, the city, and we're really excited in the project there. A Street Bridge, our historic A Street Bridge, which overlooks the Arc of Dreams, is getting an entire rehab this year. That's going to be a large project that we're anxious to start on. Marion Road for Jefferson High School. We had to allocate, I believe, around $6 million. Is that right, Eric? Around $6 million for that project last year, not knowing the school was going to go there. So we moved some things around the capital plan. That work will be done this year. 57th Street from Minnesota to Western. I drive that one a lot. It's a rough stretch of road. So my Shocks are excited about that work that's going to be happening this year. 69th Street from Tallgrass to Louise is another. That's one I actually hear about in my office a lot. People are wondering when that work is going to be done over on the south and west side of town. That's programmed. And then continued work on our main lift station and wastewater treatment plant. And what I always say about that is it's the most unsexy work you can do in the city, but probably some of the most critical work that we're going to be doing in the city. Downtown, First Premier, their headquarters that they're building on 14th and Minnesota. Continued progress, and I believe an opening on that this year. Sioux Steel, the Phase 3 River Greenway, I talked about that. Continued build out of that 5G network. We actually just had a meeting with our council leadership on some other exciting development projects that are in the works in Sioux Falls. So there's a lot of interest in our city right now. Next month, in January, one thing I'll tease you on a little bit is I'm going to be launching a large-scale push for mentors in our city. And I've got the question a lot from folks who want to be involved in our city and say, Paul, we love the direction of our city. How can I help? How can I help my city? What can I do? Can I volunteer? Can I work at a school? What can I do to help our city? And it always comes back to mentorship and investing in other people's lives. And so working with Boys and Girls Club and the new Team Meets program in the school district and Lutheran Social Services and the community outreach, all the existing mentorship programs, bringing them together for a large-scale mentorship push to make Sioux Falls a city of mentors. And I think we can be known as that if we do this right. We're going to be launching our on-demand transit pilot this year. That's another project that took a lot of time this past year to get us to the point where we're ready to move forward with this on-demand transit pilot. Transit's an emotional issue for people, and we've learned that this past year. It's a big cheese mover, but we realize we have to do something, and we're really excited about where we landed with this pilot. Allie Hartzler on our innovation team has been an incredible champion for that, as is Jason Reisdorfer, and Allie will be leading that forward into the coming year. Talked about the Arts Task Force and continued dedication to the arts that we'll have this year. And so it's going to be an exciting year in the city. We do anticipate some other projects that I can't talk about now, but there's a lot of development interest in Sioux Falls. There's a lot of folks that have had a good economic decade that want to pay that forward in our city. They want to invest in Sioux Falls, and that's really exciting to see. So honored, continue to be honored to serve in this role, in this capacity. My Chief of Staff, Erica Beck, is here, and my Deputy Chief, TJ Nelson. We've had a strong year, and I owe a lot of thanks and a lot of gratitude to those two for all the work that you guys have done to get us there. This surely isn't a me city. I got some directors sitting here as well. Man, we got a great team, and we've got some great things done thanks to all your leadership. So.